This week on the corner, we're going to add a filament sensor to our Voxelab Aquila. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's me Jeff. Welcome back to my corner. This week I decided to have a look at my Voxelab Aquila. As you remember, we did a BL touch or a 3D touch on here, but it still had the Z stop kicking around. So what I wanted to do this week is I wanted to repurpose that Z stop and turn it into a filament sensor. And we're going to tackle all that right now. So here's my Voxelab Aquila. I've got the BL touch sensor here. So what I've done is I've taken my ZM stop, I've just moved it down. Now I don't really need the ZM stop because I have the BL touch on here, or the 3D touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to repurpose it and I'm going to use it as a filament sensor. The first thing you're going to need to do is remove this bracket from the Z-axis. You're going to have to remove the two bolts and they're attached by T-nuts, then just unplug the switch. The switch itself has two screws that you'll need to undo with a Phillips screwdriver. Once you complete these steps, you'll have the switch free and will be able to use it for our runout sensor. You're now going to need to get access to your motherboard. You'll have to do that by flipping your machine upside down and taking the cover off. We're going to remove the ZM stop wire. You may have to take the white end of the wire off by simply pressing on the metal tabs with some tweezers and removing it. Then you should be able to work the wire through, just like I did here. Then it's simply just a matter of unplugging it from the board, and then you'll be ready for your next step. Okay, so let's look at the board wiring here real quick, just so everyone's on the same page. Okay, so you're going to put your sensor. Here's your Z stop. This is your Y. This is your X. This right here, right beside the power, is where you're going to put your filament sensor. But your filament sensor needs to have your power, ground, and signal. Signal is closest to your green power terminal here, okay? So yeah, it's power from the top of the board, ground, and then signal. And I'll show you also with the switch. You got your signal, which is your COM, your NO, which is your ground, and then your signal, or your power, which is your NC, okay? So you can always double check this by the way that it hooks into the plug. Just make sure your plug wires are running the same way on both sides. I'm using a DuPont on this side, but you would want to probably use a proper JST connector. Okay, and that's it. That's the wiring. You just got to make sure it's right there. So I've gone into Tinkercad and I've remixed a model that was for a CR10, so it will fit on the Aquila. I actually printed this really quick in 3.3 mil resolution. Layer height seems to have come out quite well. Ignore the autofocus. And we're just going to, there's two holes here. You're going to need two M3 screws. And the sensor is just going to fit in there like that. And that is pretty much it. So now it's just a matter of installing the two hex nuts, the M3s. I think I used M3.8s or M3.6s just to secure it in. The holes are already pre-threaded, which is really nice on the gantry. So you just have to literally screw them until they're snug. And then you're going to need those two screws that you had before with the switch in order to install them here. Now it's just a matter of plugging in the plug and running the wire so it doesn't interfere with the wheel. My best bet would be to run it down before the wheel and just zip tie it. So now with the software side of it, in order to set up the filament sensor, you're going to scroll down to advanced, then you're going to scroll down to filament sensor, and you're going to make sure there's a red or a check mark here. After that, you're going to go to the runout distance. Now this makes it so when it prints and it detects it will print an extra amount. So I'm going to set mine to 10. That way I know that the filament's going to clear the runout sensor, and when it starts to retract, it won't back into the runout sensor, possibly causing damage. Once you're done all this, what you're going to do is you're going to end up going back, and you're going to go to store settings, and then you should be good to go. The machine's going to remember you have the filament sensor on. Now, if you remember, I did sent the filament sensor to go off 10 mils after and then stop. So by complete fluke, when I touched it there, it was exactly 10 mils afterwards. So I thought that was kind of ironic, so I thought I'd leave that in the edit. And there we have it, one successful trigger and one successful continuation of a filament change. So I think she's working, and that's awesome. Got the old filament sensor going now. It's working great. I'm using Alex's custom firmware with this, which is fantastic. I'm not going to, thank goodness, Voxelab fixed their issue with their firmware locking up. There's still a couple of problems with their BL Touch firmware. As you can see, there's some spelling errors. It's not quite pointing to the right place on the word map, and you can't run a G29 to start, or else it will lock your printer up. So yeah, those are the reasons why I decided to stick to Alex's firmware. I didn't have a chance to check the filament runout with the Voxelab firmware. I decided to go straight with Alex's instead, and as you can see or saw, it was working like a champ. So yeah, that was a fun little project. I'll leave the STL file in my Dropbox that you guys can grab if you want to repurpose it or whatnot. The only other thing is you'll need a 3-wire JST connector for both the filament end and for the board end. Okay, so you guys are going to have to source that on your own, or I just made one. I had a couple spares kicking around, so it was really easy for me. But yeah, I hope you liked this video, and you know, cruising through the channel as always. Don't mind clicking subscribe, giving me a thumbs up, leave a comment below if you have a different solution for this. I just figured that was my cheapest solution in order to get filament runout working on this. So thanks a lot, everyone. Until next time, see ya.